The morning sun cast long shadows across the White House lawn when the first alien ships appeared in Earth's sky. President Jake Morrison stood at his office window, watching the massive vessels hover silently above major cities around the world. The ships were unlike anything humanity had ever imagined. Sleek, dark structures that seemed to bend light around their edges. "Sir, we're getting reports from every major capital," Defense Secretary Lisa Grant said as she entered the room. Her voice was steady, but Jake could see the worry in her eyes. London, Tokyo, Moscow, Beijing, they're all reporting the same thing. 12 ships, each one about the size of a city block. Jake nodded slowly. 3 hours ago, the world had been normal. People were going to work, children were heading to school, and the biggest concern was the upcoming trade talks with Europe. Now everything had changed. Aliens hadn't attacked or made any aggressive moves. They simply appeared and waited. "Any communication attempts?" Jake asked. "Nothing from our end has worked," Lisa replied. "But sir, there's something else. We're detecting massive energy readings from the ships. Our scientists say the power output from just one of those vessels could run the entire eastern seaboard for a year." Captain Roy Hansen of the Earth Defense Force knocked on the door before entering. He was a tall man with graying hair and the kind of calm demeanor that came from years of military service. "Mr. President, we've got incoming transmission. It's not using any of our communication systems, but somehow it's appearing on every screen, radio, and device on the planet." Jake straightened his tie and walked to the main screen in his office, put it through. The screen flickered, and suddenly they were looking at something that was definitely not human. The creature was tall and reptilian, with golden scales that seemed to shimmer in the light. Its eyes were large and dark, and when it spoke, its voice was deep and resonant. "Greetings, inhabitants of the third planet," the alien said. "I am Admiral Kexel of the Zephyrian Galactic Empire. We represent 12 species that have ruled this section of the galaxy for 50,000 of your years." Jake felt a chill run down his spine. 50,000 years. Humanity had only been building cities for a few thousand years, and these beings had been traveling between stars for 50 times longer than that. "We have come to offer you membership in our empire," Admiral Kextel continued. "Your species shows promise, despite your primitive technology and violent nature. Under our guidance, you will learn to serve the greater good of the galaxy." Lisa leaned forward. "Did he just say serve?" The alien continued speaking as if he could hear her. "Your planet will provide workers for our mining operations, soldiers for our armies, when your most intelligent individuals will become administrators in our bureaucracy. In return, we will provide you with technology, medicine, and protection from the dangers of the galaxy." Jake felt his jaw tighten. The way the alien spoke, it wasn't really an offer at all. It was a demand wrapped in polite words. "However," Admiral Kextel said, his voice becoming colder, "we understand that primitive species often require time to comprehend the benefits of our offer. Therefore, we will give you 30 of your days to consider. When we return, we expect your complete and unconditional surrender." The transmission ended, leaving the room in stunned silence. Jake looked at Lisa and Roy, seeing his own thoughts reflected in their faces. This wasn't a negotiation, it was an ultimatum. Sir Roy said carefully, "What are your orders?" Jake walked back to the window. In the distance, he could see one of the alien ships hanging in the sky like a dark cloud. "Get me the leaders of every nation on the planet. Emergency session of the United Nations in 2 hours. And Roy, I want you to mobilize everything we have. Every soldier, every scientist, every engineer." With respect, Lisa said, "Did you see the size of those ships? Our most advanced fighters would be like mosquitoes attacking an elephant." "Maybe," Jake replied, "but mosquitoes can still bite." 2 hours later, Jake stood before the emergency session of the United Nations. The Great Hall was packed with world leaders, all of whom had seen the same transmission. The Chinese premier, the British Prime Minister, the Russian President, they all looked as shaken as Jake felt. "Ladies and gentlemen," Jake began, "we all heard the same message. An alien empire wants us to surrender and become their servants. I want to know what each of your nations intends to do." The British Prime Minister spoke first. "United Kingdom, We'll never bow to any foreign power, terrestrial or otherwise. We've fought tyrants before. The Russian president nodded. Russia agrees. We have experience with empires that demand submission. It never ends well for the people. One by one, every leader in the room expressed the same sentiment. Humanity would not surrender without a fight. Meanwhile, at the Pentagon, Dr. Emma Price was leading a team of scientists in analyzing the alien technology. Emma was a brilliant physicist who had spent her career studying exotic matter and energy systems. Now she was humanity's best hope for understanding their visitors. The energy signatures are unlike anything we've seen, Emma explained to General Frank Carter, who is coordinating the global defense effort. But there are patterns. These ships use some kind of fusion-based power system, but it's far more advanced than anything we have. Frank was a veteran of 3 wars and had a strategic mind that could see the big picture. Doctor, I need to know if we can hurt them. I don't care if it's a long shot. Emma looked at her data. General, I've been studying the probe fragments we recovered when they first arrived. Our technology is advanced, but it's not magic. Use electromagnetic fields. They process information. They have power sources. If we can understand how they work, we might be able to find weaknesses. How long do you need? With 30 days? I can't promise miracles, but I can promise we'll learn everything possible about their technology. Across the globe, similar conversations were taking place. In Moscow, engineers were working on new missile designs. In Tokyo, computer scientists were analyzing the alien communication systems. In London, military strategists were planning defensive positions. Captain Roy Hansen found himself in charge of coordinating these efforts. His office had become a command center with screens showing military movements from around the world. Every nation was contributing what they could. Captain, one of his assistants, said, "We're getting reports of unusual activity in the asteroid belt. Our deep space sensors are picking up some kind of construction." Roy studied the data. It looks like they're building something. A staging area, maybe? Or a weapon, the assistant replied grimly. Roy nodded. Get this information to Dr. Price and General Carter, and send a message to all our orbital assets. I want eyes on everything happening in our solar system. As the first day of the 30-day deadline passed, humanity began to change. Factories that had been making cars started making weapons. Scientists who had been studying climate change began studying alien technology. Soldiers who had been training for conventional warfare started learning about space combat. But perhaps the most important change was in the hearts and minds of ordinary people. For the first time in history, every human being on Earth had the same enemy. National borders, political differences, and ancient rivalries suddenly seemed less important than the simple fact that they were all human. Jake Morrison ended his first day as a wartime president by calling his wife. "How are the kids handling this?" he asked. "They're scared," she replied, "but they're also angry. Amy asked me why aliens think they can tell us what to do." Jake smiled despite everything. Out of the mouths of babes. "Jake, can we win this?" He looked out at the alien ship still hanging in the sky. "I don't know, but we're going to try." 29 days remained. 15 days had passed since the alien ultimatum, and Earth looked nothing like it had 2 weeks earlier. The planet hummed with activity as humanity transformed itself from a peaceful civilization into a fortress world. In orbit around Earth, massive construction projects were taking shape at a speed that would have been impossible just months before. Engineer Tony Blake stood on the observation deck of the International Space Station, watching as the third orbital defense platform neared completion. Tony had spent his career building bridges and skyscrapers, but now he was building something entirely different. The platform was enormous, nearly a mile across, bristling with weapons that had been designed and built in just 2 weeks. "Tony, we need you in the command center," came a voice over his communicator. It was Dr. Emma Price, who had become the unofficial leader of humanity's technology development team. Tony pushed off from the observation window and floated through the station's corridors. The space station had been expanded rapidly, with new modules being added every day. What had once been a research facility was now the central command post for Earth's defense network. "What's the situation?" Tony asked as he entered the command center. Emma pointed to a large screen showing the solar system. "Our deep space sensors are picking up movement beyond Pluto. The alien fleet is repositioning, and they're doing it 2 weeks ahead of schedule." General Frank Carter, who was coordinating the global defense effort from the station, studied the data. "They're coming back early. I care. That means they either want to catch us off guard, or they're more worried about what we're building than they let on." Tony looked at the readouts from the defense platforms. The fusion reactors are online, and the magnetic shield generators are at full power. But we've only got 3 platforms operational. We were supposed to have 6. 3 will have to do, Frank said grimly. "How are the fighters coming along?" In a hangar bay on the other side of the station, pilot Amy Rodriguez was running final checks on humanity's newest weapon. The fighter was sleek and angular, about the size of a large jet, but equipped with technology that would have been science fiction just a month ago. The ship could travel faster than light, thanks to the drive system that Dr. Price had reverse-engineered. "From alien probe fragments, all systems green," Amy reported to her ground crew. "The FTL drive is responding perfectly, and the new plasma cannons are ready for testing." Amy had been a test pilot for the Air Force before the aliens arrived. She had flown every experimental aircraft the military had developed, but this was different. This ship represented humanity's first step into true space combat. "Rodriguez, you're cleared for launch," came the voice of flight control. "Take her out for a quick test run, but stay within the inner system. We don't want to attract attention yet." Amy sealed her helmet and powered up the engines. The fighter lifted smoothly from the hangar bay and accelerated toward the outer planets. The FTL drive engaged with a brief flash of light, and suddenly she was traveling faster than anything human-made had ever moved before. "This is incredible," Amy said over the radio. "The ship handles like a dream, and the speed is unbelievable." But even as humanity celebrated these technological achievements, the aliens were moving. Admiral Kextel stood on the bridge of his flagship studying reports from his scouts. The primitive planet had surprised him. Instead of the panicked surrender he had expected, the humans were building defenses. "Admiral," his second-in-command reported, "our sensors are detecting significant energy signatures from the third planet. They appear to be constructing orbital installations." Kextal's golden scales darkened with annoyance. "Impossible. These creatures barely have the technology to reach their own moon. They cannot possibly pose a threat to the Empire." "Sir, our intelligence suggests otherwise. The humans have somehow developed faster than light travel and fusion power in just 2 weeks. Our xenobiologists say this level of technological advancement is impossible for any species." The Admiral's large eyes narrowed. "Then we will teach them the futility of resistance. Signal the fleet. We advance immediately. Back on Earth." President Jake Morrison was in the Situation Room beneath the White House. The room was filled with screens showing military preparations around the world. Every nation had contributed to the defense effort, and now their combined forces were about to be tested. "Sir," Defense Secretary Lisa Grant said, "we're detecting the alien fleet moving toward Earth. They'll be here in less than 6 hours, Jake." Nodded. "Are our people ready?" General Carter's voice came through the communicator from the space station. "Mr. President, the orbital platforms are online, and the fighter squadrons are prepared. We've got about 200 pilots trained on the new ships. Every platform is equipped with enough firepower to level a small country." "And the shield grid?" Dr. Emma Price answered this time. "The planetary shield is operational, sir. We've created a magnetic field that should deflect most energy weapons. It's based on the same technology we found in the alien probes, but we've modified it significantly." Jake felt a mixture of pride and fear. In just 15 days, humanity had accomplished things that should have taken years. But would it be enough? 6 hours later, the alien fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the solar system. Admiral Kextal expected to see the same primitive planet he had visited 2 weeks earlier. Instead, he found a world surrounded by defensive installations and protected by an energy field that his sensors could barely penetrate. "Admiral," his weapons officer reported, "we're detecting multiple orbital platforms and what appear to be small attack craft." The humans have also generated some kind of planetary shield. Kexel's anger flared. Impossible. Begin the bombardment immediately. We will crush this resistance and make an example of this pathetic species. The alien ships opened fire, sending massive energy beams toward Earth. The beams struck the planetary shield and were deflected harmlessly into space. The shield held, flickering slightly, but remaining solid. "Sir," the weapons officer said in confusion, "our bombardment had no effect. The planetary shield is deflecting our weapons." On the space station, Tony Blake watched the alien attack with satisfaction. "The shield is holding perfectly. The magnetic field is dispersing their energy weapons across the entire grid." But the celebration was short-lived. The aliens quickly adapted, focusing their fire on the orbital platforms instead of the planet itself. The first platform came. Under intense attack, its shields flaring as they absorbed the enemy fire. "Platform 2 is taking heavy damage," reported the platform's commander. "We need assistance." This was the moment Amy Rodriguez and her fellow pilots had been waiting for. "Fighter Squadron Alpha, this is Rodriguez. We're cleared for attack. Let's show these aliens what humans can do." 20 fighters launched from hidden bays around the platforms. The small ships accelerated to incredible speeds, their FTL drives allowing them to appear and disappear unpredictably around the alien fleet. Amy lined up her first target, a massive alien cruiser that was firing on Platform 2. "Firing plasma cannons," she announced, and pressed the trigger. The plasma bolt struck the alien ship's hull, burning through its armor and causing secondary explosions. The cruiser, damaged but not destroyed, turned its weapons toward the human. "Fighters, they're adapting to our tactics," Amy reported. "But we're faster and more maneuverable." The space battle raged for hours. The human fighters used hit-and-run tactics, striking quickly and then vanishing before the aliens could respond effectively. The orbital platforms provided heavy firepower, their fusion-powered weapons punching through alien shields. Admiral Kexthal watched in growing disbelief as his fleet took casualties. These primitive beings were actually fighting back effectively. Several of his ships had been destroyed, and many more were damaged. Admiral, his second-in-command, said urgently, "We're losing ships. The human fighters are using some kind of phase technology that makes them nearly impossible to target." Kexthal's pride warred with his survival instincts. The Zephyrian Empire had not faced effective resistance in thousands of years. These humans were supposed to be primitive, barely capable of spaceflight, yet they had somehow developed technology that rivaled his own. "Signal the fleet," he said finally. "We withdraw beyond the outer planets. Send a priority message to the Empire. We need reinforcements." As the alien fleet retreated, cheers erupted throughout the human forces. Amy Rodriguez and her surviving pilots returned to the space station as heroes. The orbital platforms had held, and Earth remained free. But everyone knew this was just the beginning. The aliens would return with more ships and better preparations. Humanity had won the first battle, but the war was far from over. President Morrison addressed the world that evening. "Today we proved that humanity will not bow to tyranny. We showed the galaxy that Earth's children are not slaves to be taken, but free people who will fight for their liberty." The first victory was complete, but the real test was yet to come. 6 months had passed since the first battle, and Earth had used every day to prepare for what everyone knew was coming. The planet's defenses had grown stronger, but so had the threat approaching from deep space. Dr. Emma Price stood in her laboratory on the moon, surrounded by equipment that would have been impossible to imagine a year ago. "The quantum scanner is picking up massive energy signatures," Emma reported to the command center. "Whatever's coming, it's bigger than anything we've seen before." Colonel Dan Murphy, who had been promoted after leading several successful raids on alien scout ships, studied the readings. Dan was a Special Forces veteran who had adapted quickly to space warfare. His team had become experts at sneaking aboard enemy vessels and gathering intelligence. "How much bigger?" Don asked. Emma's face was grim. "The energy output we're detecting is equivalent to our entire solar system's power consumption." "This isn't just a fleet, Dan. This is an armada." The truth was even worse than Emma suspected. In the depths of space, the largest military force in galactic history was approaching Earth. 10,000 ships of various sizes, carrying the combined might of the Zephyrian Empire. At the center of this massive fleet was the Imperial Dreadnought, a ship so large it had its own gravity and atmosphere. On the bridge of the Dreadnought, Emperor Vexner himself oversaw the operation. The Emperor was ancient, even by alien standards, and had ruled the galaxy for over 1,000 years. His species was different from Admiral Kextal's reptilian form. Vexner looked almost like a giant insect, with multiple arms and eyes that could see across different spectrums of light. "Your Majesty," Admiral Kextal said, bowing low before his Emperor, "the human world lies ahead. Their defenses are stronger than we initially predicted, but they cannot possibly withstand the full might of the Empire." Emperor Vexner's multiple eyes focused on the tactical display. "These creatures have embarrassed us, Admiral. No species has successfully resisted the Empire for 50,000 years. We will not merely conquer them. We will erase them as an example to any other species that might consider defiance." The Emperor's personal weapon, a device capable of destroying entire planets, was being prepared. But Vexner wanted to try conventional warfare first. He believed that the sight of his massive fleet would cause the humans to surrender without a fight. Back on Earth, President Jake Morrison was meeting with world leaders in the expanded United Nations building. The structure had been reinforced and moved underground to protect it from orbital bombardment. Every nation's leader was present, either in person or through secure video links. "The alien fleet will arrive in 72 hours, Jake announced. "Our deep space sensors showed 10,000 ships, including several that are larger than anything we've encountered before." The British Prime Minister leaned forward. "Mr. President, our combined forces have perhaps 500 ships and 6 orbital platforms. The mathematics are not in our favor." Jake nodded grimly. "That's why we're not going to fight them conventionally. Dr. Price, please explain the new defensive strategy." Emma appeared on the main screen from her lunar laboratory. "We've spent the last 6 months building more than just weapons. We've created a network of hidden bases throughout the solar system. Each base is equipped with experimental technology that we've developed by studying captured alien equipment." She brought up a holographic display of the solar system. "We have bases on Mars, in the asteroid belt, on the moons of Jupiter and Saturn, and even in the outer reaches beyond Pluto. Each base can operate independently and is designed to be nearly invisible to alien sensors." General Frank Carter added, "The strategy is simple. We let them come to us. Then we hit them from every direction at once. We'll be expecting a conventional defense around Earth, but we'll be attacking them from places they never thought to look." The plan was ambitious, but it was humanity's best hope. Captain Roy Hansen had been working with military leaders from every nation to coordinate the defense. The hidden bases were staffed by volunteers from around the world, people who had left their families behind 2-man remote outposts in the cold depths of space at the Mars base. Commander Kate Sullivan was preparing her squadron for the coming battle. Kate had been a Navy pilot before the alien invasion, and now she commanded one of humanity's most advanced fighter groups. The Mars base was built inside a mountain, completely hidden from orbital detection. "Listen up, people," Kate addressed. Her pilots were going to be the first to engage the enemy when they enter the inner system. "Our job is to hit their scouts and disappear before they can respond. We're not trying to win a stand-up fight. We're trying to confuse them and make them think we're everywhere at once." Her pilots nodded. They had trained for months in the unique conditions of space combat, learning to use asteroid fields and planetary gravity to their advantage. Each pilot knew that they were vastly outnumbered, but they also knew that surprise was their greatest weapon. Meanwhile, in the asteroid belt, engineer Tony Blake was overseeing the completion of humanity's secret weapon. The project was so classified that even most world leaders didn't know about it. Tony had been working with Dr. Alice Ford, a brilliant physicist who had made breakthrough discoveries in quantum mechanics. "The quantum phase generator is ready," Alice reported. "We can shift our entire fleet into an alternate dimension for short periods. The aliens won't be able to see us or target us while we're phased." Tony smiled. and when we phase back in, we'll be right on top of them. The technology was risky and untested in large-scale combat, but it represented humanity's best chance against the overwhelming enemy force. The plan was to phase the human fleet out of normal space just as the aliens arrived, then phase back. At point-blank range, as the alien armada approached the solar system, Emperor Vexener was confident of victory. His ships were equipped with the most advanced weapons in the galaxy, including reality-warping devices that could tear holes in space itself. The humans had surprised him once, but he would not underestimate them again. "Begin the advance," the Emperor ordered. "Deploy scouts to all planetary bodies. Want to know the location of every human ship and base." The alien fleet spread out across the solar system, with scout ships heading toward every planet and moon. This was exactly what the humans had been hoping for. As the scouts approached Mars, Kate Sullivan's fighters were waiting in the planet's shadow. "All wings. This is Sullivan," Kate transmitted. "Targets are approaching. Remember, hit fast and get out. We want them to think Mars is heavily defended." The human fighters struck without warning, their plasma cannons destroying several scout ships before the aliens could react. But instead of pressing the attack, the humans disappeared back into the planetary shadow, leaving the aliens confused about the size of the defending force. Similar attacks happened throughout the solar system. Human fighters would appear suddenly, destroy a few alien ships, then vanish. The aliens began to believe that humanity had built a vast defensive network with bases on every planetary body. "Your Majesty," Admiral Kextel reported, "the humans appear to have fortified the entire solar system. We're encountering resistance at every location." Emperor Vexener's insect-like features showed annoyance. Impossible. These creatures could not have built such extensive defenses in just 6 months. But the reports kept coming. Human ships seemed to be everywhere, striking from unexpected directions and disappearing before the aliens could respond. The Emperor's massive fleet was being harassed by what appeared to be a defense network that spanned the entire solar system. Captain Steve Martinez was leading one of the most dangerous missions of the war. His team had been tasked with infiltrating the alien command ship and gathering intelligence about their plans. Steve's ship was equipped with the new phase technology, allowing it to pass through the alien fleet undetected. "We're approaching the command ship," Steve reported to Earth. "Beginning infiltration now." The human ship phased back into normal space inside the alien vessel's hangar bay. Steve and his team, wearing powered armor that had been reverse-engineered from alien technology, moved quickly through the ship's corridors. What they discovered was shocking. The aliens weren't just technologically advanced, they were completely dependent on their technology. They had become so reliant on their computers and automated systems that they had forgotten how to think creatively or adapt to unexpected situations. "Emma, you need to hear this." Steve transmitted back to Earth. "These aliens think in patterns. Their entire military doctrine is based on predetermined responses to specific situations. They can't handle chaos or unpredictability. This intelligence was exactly what humanity needed." Dr. Emma Price immediately began developing what she called chaos weapons, devices that would flood the alien communication networks with random, contradictory information. As the alien fleet closed in on Earth, they found themselves facing an enemy unlike anything they had encountered in 50,000 years. The humans didn't follow the rules of galactic warfare. They struck from impossible angles, used unconventional tactics, and seemed to thrive in the chaos of battle. Emperor Vexenar realized that he was no longer fighting a primitive species. He was fighting something far more dangerous, a species that refused to be conquered. 1 year had passed since the alien invasion began, and the war had spread far beyond Earth's solar system. What had started as a simple conquest had become the largest galactic conflict in 50,000 years. The Zephyrian Empire, which had ruled without challenge for millennia, was now fighting battles on dozens of worlds as other species began to rebel. Major Helen Wright stood on the bridge of the human ship Liberty, watching as her mixed crew of humans and alien refugees prepared for another raid. Helen had been an army officer before the invasion, but now she commanded one of the most successful resistance groups in the galaxy. Her ship carried weapons that combined human ingenuity with alien technology, creating devastating new forms of warfare. "Major, we're approaching the Kepler system," reported her navigation officer, a blue-skinned alien named Zara, who had escaped from Zephyrian slavery. "The mining colonies there have been under Imperial control for 300 years. Helen nodded. "Any sign of the local resistance?" "Yes, ma'am. They're transmitting on the frequency we gave them. They're ready to coordinate their uprising with our attack." This was how the war had evolved. Humanity's stubborn refusal to surrender had inspired other species throughout the galaxy. Races that had been conquered centuries ago were remembering what freedom felt like. The Zephyrian Empire was facing revolts on hundreds of worlds, and they were losing control. On Earth, Dr. Max Turner was working on humanity's most important discovery yet. Max had been a computer programmer before the war, but now he was leading the effort to understand and exploit the aliens' greatest weakness. His laboratory was filled with captured alien communication devices and quantum computers that could process information at incredible speeds. "Emma, come look at this." Max called to Dr. Emma Price, who was visiting his lab. "I've figured out how their hive mind works." Emma studied the data on Max's screens. "This is incredible. They're not just communicating with each other, they're sharing thoughts and emotions directly." "Exactly," Max said excitedly. "But here's the amazing part. The system was designed for logical, ordered thinking. When we introduce chaos, human creativity, art, random thoughts, it crashes their entire network." Max had discovered that the aliens' greatest strength was also their greatest weakness. Their ability to share information instantly across vast distances had made them powerful, but it also made them vulnerable to disruption. Human thoughts and emotions were so chaotic and unpredictable that they could overload the alien communication system. "We've been working on something we call chaos weapons," Max explained. "Devices that broadcast human creativity directly into their network. Music, poetry, random memories, anything that represents the human experience." Emma was amazed.
What
"Kind of effect does this have?" "Watch this recording from our last test," Max said, bringing up a video screen. It showed an alien ship that had been exposed to a chaos weapon. The vessel was flying erratically, its crew apparently unable to coordinate their actions. The aliens literally can't think straight when exposed to human creativity. Their ordered minds just shut down. While Max worked on his chaos weapons, the war continued to spread. Captain Rick Davis commanded humanity's growing Starfleet, leading missions to liberate alien worlds and recruit new allies. Rick had been a Coast Guard officer before the invasion, but he had adapted quickly to space warfare and diplomatic missions. "Captain, we're receiving a transmission from the Andromedans," his communications officer reported. "They want to join the Alliance." Rick smiled. The Andromedans were a peaceful species that had been enslaved by the Zephyrians for 2,000 years. If they were willing to fight, it meant the rebellion was reaching every corner of the galaxy. "Tell them we'll provide weapons and training," Rick replied. "And ask them to spread the word to other species. Freedom is contagious." This was perhaps the most important aspect of humanity's war effort. Humans weren't just fighting for Earth, they were fighting for the freedom of every species in the galaxy. The message was simple. No one should bow to tyranny, and everyone deserved the right to choose their own path. But the Zephyrian Empire was not giving up without a fight. Emperor Vexener had authorized the use of weapons that had been forbidden for thousands of years. Reality bombs that could erase entire star systems, time weapons that could trap planets in temporal loops, and dimensional disruptors that could tear holes in space itself. "Your Majesty," Admiral Kextall reported from the bridge of his flagship, "the rebellion has spread to over 40% of our territory. We're losing control of entire sectors." Emperor Vexener's multiple eyes glowed with fury. "Then we will use the ultimate weapons. Prepare the reality bomb. We cannot rule the galaxy, we will destroy it rather than let these humans corrupt it with their chaotic thinking." The reality bomb was a device that could literally erase matter from existence. It had been built during the early days of the Empire, but had never been used because of its terrible power. Now, faced with the collapse of his rule, the Emperor was willing to destroy entire civilizations to maintain control. back on Earth. Engineer Sarah Bell was working frantically to develop countermeasures against the Empire's ultimate weapons. Sarah had been a nuclear engineer before the war, but now she was dealing with forces that could destroy reality itself. "The temporal shield is almost ready," Sarah reported to the Defense Council. "If they use a reality bomb, we can trap it in a causality loop. Make it erase itself instead of us." President Jake Morrison, who had been re-elected in a wartime election, studied the technical reports. "How certain are you that this will work?" "About 60%, Sarah admitted. "But it's the best chance we have. The alternative is the complete destruction of Earth and everyone on it." Jake nodded grimly. "Do it. And Sarah, make sure our allies know about this technology. If the Empire is willing to use reality bombs on us, they'll use them on anyone who opposes them." As the war entered its second year, the tide was clearly turning. The chaos weapons were proving devastatingly effective against alien forces. Entire fleets would shut down when exposed to human creativity, their crews unable to function in the face of humanity's chaotic thinking patterns. Major Helen Wright was leading a raid on an Imperial stronghold when she first saw the chaos weapons in action. Her ship broadcast a mixture of human music, poetry, and random thoughts directly into the alien base's communication network. "What's happening to them?" asked Zara, her alien navigation officer. Helen watched as the alien defenders began acting erratically. Some were firing at their own forces, others were abandoning their posts, and many were simply standing still as if they couldn't decide what to do. "They're experiencing human consciousness," Helen explained. "Their minds are designed for order and logic. When they're exposed to the chaos of human thought, they just can't cope." The attack was a complete success. The alien base fell without a single human casualty, and hundreds of alien prisoners were taken. But more importantly, the base's communication equipment spread the chaos signal to other Imperial installations, causing disruption across an entire sector. Word of humanity's new weapons spread quickly through the galaxy. Species that had been enslaved for centuries suddenly saw hope. If the mighty Zephyrian Empire could be defeated by human creativity, then anything was possible. Dr. Max Turner was amazed by the results of his chaos weapons. "Emma, look at these reports. The weapons aren't just disrupting their communications, they're actually inspiring creativity in other species. The aliens who survive exposure to human consciousness are becoming more independent, more creative." Emma studied the data. "It's like we're teaching them to think for themselves. The hive mind made them powerful, but it also made them slaves to groupthink. Human individuality is literally infectious." As the second year of the war began, Emperor Vexener made his most desperate decision yet. He would personally lead the final attack on Earth, using every forbidden weapon at his disposal. The reality bomb, the time disruptors, the dimensional weapons, everything would be unleashed in one final attempt to destroy humanity and its dangerous ideas about freedom. But humanity was ready. The chaos weapons were fully deployed, the temporal shields were operational, and most importantly, the human spirit remained unbroken. The war had transformed from a simple invasion into a galactic revolution, and humanity was leading the charge toward freedom. The final battle was about to begin. The final battle began, not around Earth, but across 12 different star systems as the Galactic Rebellion reached its peak. Captain Rick Davis stood on the bridge of the newly constructed human flagship Freedom, watching as the largest fleet in human history prepared for the decisive confrontation. Ships from dozens of liberated species had joined the human fleet, creating an alliance that the galaxy had never seen before. "Captain, we're receiving reports from all sectors," his communications officer announced. "The uprising is happening everywhere at once. The Empire's forces are scattered across the galaxy, trying to put down revolts." Rick studied the tactical display. This was exactly what humanity had planned. Instead of one massive battle, they had coordinated simultaneous rebellions on hundreds of worlds. Zephyrian Empire, which had ruled through fear and overwhelming force, couldn't be everywhere at once. "What's the status on Emperor Vexenor's fleet?" Rick asked. "Still heading directly for Earth, sir. He's ignored all the other battles and is focused entirely on destroying our home world." Rick nodded. The Emperor's obsession with Earth was both dangerous and useful. While he concentrated his most powerful forces on one target, the rest of the galaxy was breaking free from Imperial control. On Earth, engineer Sarah Bell was making final preparations for humanity's most desperate gamble. The temporal shield generator was the size of a city, built deep underground to protect it from orbital bombardment. Sarah had spent months perfecting the device, knowing that one mistake could destroy not just Earth, but possibly the entire solar system. Sarah, we're detecting massive energy buildup from the Imperial fleet. Dr. Emma Price reported from the command center. They're preparing to use the reality bomb. Sarah's hands moved quickly over her controls. The temporal shield is ready. When they fire the reality bomb, we'll trap it in a causality loop. The weapon will exist in a bubble of time where it's always about to explode but never actually does. And if it doesn't work? Emma asked. Sarah didn't answer. They both knew. What would happen if the plan failed? In space, Emperor Vexenor's massive fleet had reached Earth's outer defenses. The Emperor himself was aboard his flagship, a vessel so large it had its own weather systems. For the first time in 1,000 years, he was personally leading a military operation. Your Majesty, Admiral Kextel reported, the human defenses are stronger than ever. They have orbital platforms, fighter squadrons, and that planetary shield. Emperor Vexenor's multiple eyes focused on the tactical display. No matter, we will use the reality bomb to erase this troublesome planet from existence. Then we will hunt down every human in the galaxy and destroy them all. The reality bomb was unlike any weapon ever created. It didn't just destroy matter, it erased it from reality itself, as if it had never existed. The Emperor had decided that humanity's dangerous ideas about freedom and creativity were too infectious to be allowed to spread. Prepare the reality bomb, the Emperor ordered. Target the third planet directly. But as the Imperial fleet moved into position, they encountered something unexpected. Human ships began appearing everywhere, seeming to materialize out of empty space. Dr. Alice Ford's quantum phase technology had been perfected, allowing entire fleets to exist in alternate dimensions until the moment they were needed. "This is Admiral Morrison," came the voice of President Jake Morrison, who had taken personal command of Earth's defense. "Execute Operation Freedom." Suddenly, the space around Earth erupted into the largest battle in galactic history. Human ships phased in and out of normal space, striking at the Imperial fleet from impossible angles. The Chaos weapons were broadcasting at full power, filling the alien communication networks with human music, poetry, and creativity. The effect on the Imperial fleet was immediate and devastating. Alien ships began firing at each other there. Crews unable to distinguish friend from foe in the chaos of human consciousness flooding their minds. Some vessels simply stopped functioning entirely as their crews became paralyzed by the complexity of human thought. Admiral Kextel watched in horror as his perfectly ordered fleet descended into chaos. "Your Majesty, we're losing cohesion. The human chaos weapons are disrupting our entire command structure." Emperor Vexenar's fury was beyond measure. "Fire the reality bomb? I don't care if we destroy our own ships. Erase this planet now." The reality bomb launched from the Emperor's flagship, sphere of pure destructive energy that could unmake matter at the molecular level. As it approached Earth, Sarah Bell activated the temporal shield. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then space itself seemed to twist around the reality bomb. The weapon became trapped in a loop of time, existing in a state where it was always about to explode but could never complete the process. "It worked," Sarah shouted in triumph. "The reality bomb is trapped in temporal stasis." But the victory celebration was short-lived. Emperor Vexenor, driven to madness by the failure of his ultimate weapon, began using other forbidden technologies. Time disruptors that could age entire fleets to dust, dimensional weapons that could tear holes in space itself, and gravity bombs that could crush planets. This was when humanity revealed their greatest strength. While the aliens had become dependent on their advanced technology, humans had learned to adapt and improvise. When the time disruptors fired, human engineers quickly modified their ship's shielding. When dimensional weapons tore holes in space, human pilots used those same holes as shortcuts to attack from unexpected directions. Major Helen Wright, commanding her mixed fleet of humans and alien allies, led a desperate assault on the Emperor's flagship. Her ship Liberty had been modified with technology from a dozen different species, creating a vessel that was uniquely human in its chaotic mixture of systems. "All ships, follow my lead," Helen transmitted. "We're going straight for the Emperor's ship." The assault was madness by any military standard. Helen's small fleet charged directly at the largest and most heavily armed vessel in the galaxy. But the Chaos weapons had done their work. The Imperial flagship's defenses were confused and disorganized, unable to coordinate an effective response. Captain Steve Martinez, whose infiltration missions had provided crucial intelligence throughout. The war led a boarding party onto the Emperor's ship. His team fought through corridors filled with confused alien soldiers, making their way toward the bridge. "Steve, you need to reach the Emperor's command center," Dr. Max Turner transmitted. "From Earth, we're broadcasting the most powerful chaos signal we've ever created. If you can get it directly into their central computer, it will shut down their entire fleet." The chaos signal was a masterpiece of human creativity. It contained everything that made humanity unique: their art, their music, their literature, their dreams, their fears, their hopes. It was the essence of human consciousness compressed into a data stream. Steve's team reached the Emperor's bridge just as the chaos signal was transmitted. Emperor Vexener, exposed to the full force of human creativity for the first time, began to convulse. His ordered logical mind simply couldn't process the beautiful chaos of human thought. "Impossible," the Emperor gasped. "How can consciousness be so random, so beautiful, so free?" The effect spread through the Imperial fleet like a virus. Alien soldiers stopped fighting and began to stare in wonder at the human art being transmitted through their communication systems. They had never experienced beauty or creativity before, only order and obedience. Admiral Kextel, tears streaming down his reptilian face, opened a communication channel to the human fleet. "We surrender," he said simply. "We surrender to your beautiful chaos." The war was over. The Zephyrian Empire, which had ruled the galaxy for 50,000 years, collapsed in a matter of hours. But more importantly, something new was born from its ashes. 6 months later, President Jake Morrison stood before the First Galactic Assembly, a democratic council representing every species in the galaxy. The Great Hall was filled with beings from hundreds of different worlds, all of them free for the first time in millennia. "We came together not as conquerors, but as liberators," Jake said in his address. Earth had to shut its doors not out of fear, but to show the universe that freedom is worth fighting for. Today, we open those doors again, not as subjects of an empire, but as free beings ready to explore the galaxy together. The assembly erupted in cheers from 1,000 different species. In the months since the war ended, the galaxy had transformed. Art and music flourished on worlds that had known only conformity. New technologies emerged from the creative collaboration between species. The rigid order of the Empire had been replaced by the beautiful chaos of freedom. Dr. Emma Price, now serving as Earth's chief scientific advisor to the Galactic Council, smiled as she watched the celebration. Humanity had not only survived the alien invasion, they had given the galaxy something it had forgotten: existed. Hope outside the assembly hall. Now, human exploration fleets were preparing to set out for distant galaxies, carrying a simple message: that no one should ever bow to tyranny again. Earth's doors were open, and humanity was ready to share the gift of freedom with the entire universe. The age of the Empire was over. The age of freedom had begun.